Hey, what's going on, y'all? Welcome back to the channel. It is December 2nd, meaning it is day 2 of my Vlogmas Day videos. Today we're going to be talking about 5 tips for current sophomores who are running cross country or track. So without further ado, let's dive in.
So tip number 1 is to commit to summer training.
So I would say during my time coaching, I believe that athletes see the biggest rate of improvement in their second year of cross country and track, and that kind of makes sense given that they're kind of starting off as beginners that first year, so it's a lot easier to see tangible improvements from year 1 to year 2, right? So say for example a freshman girl runs maybe 25 minutes for a 5K, and then their sophomore year they end up running 22 minutes, right? But then they go on from sophomore to junior year, they maybe only go from 22 minutes to 21 minutes, right? So in terms of actual time, you're going to see the best or the highest rate of improvement from year 1 to year 2. It's also not surprising to see a huge rate of improvement from year 1 to year 2, because that's also where you see the highest bump up in mileage for a lot of athletes. I know for me, my freshman year, I was running maybe 25 to 30 miles a week. And then the summer going into my sophomore year, I want to say my mileage bumped up to about 40 or 45 given the week. So that's almost a double in my mileage from year 1 to year 2. So assuming that, you can get through that summer training healthy, you're going to see a huge rate of improvement. Now that being said, of course, I'm not trying to tell you that you're not going to improve later on, or you're not going to see vast improvements later on in your running career. But generally speaking, the highest rate is from that first year into that second year, so long as you put in the work and you can stay healthy and stay focused and diligent with the process.
Tip number 2 is to be a good influence on the incoming freshmen.
So this one's pretty self-explanatory, obviously, but you also have to look at it in terms of a long-term perspective, right? Obviously now with COVID going on and a lot of people are still at home or still doing some sort of hybrid schooling, you only get a certain amount of time to be with your teammates. So why are you going to try to be a jerk to your incoming freshman teammate when you could potentially have them for 2 or 3 more years? And you never know, right? As an incoming freshman, they might have a lot of talent that's going to help you along the way into your running goals, and you guys can push each other. So why corrupt that all for some like silly prank or something? That type of leadership also won't be missed on your coaches either. I mean, speaking from my experience, I know or I at least have a pretty good idea of who I could see as a captain by the end of their freshman year, and barring some sort of major setback, typically that person is going to be a captain their junior or senior year. And also, as I've mentioned in the past, 4 years is a long time. So maybe a freshman coming in is kind of a shy kid, or kind of, maybe you think they're a weirdo or something. But by the time they're a junior or senior, they're going to grow out of that shell more often than not. And in addition, maybe they start off on the slower end of the spectrum. But if they're willing to put in the work, chances are they're going to be a major factor into your running career as a teammate by the time you're a senior.
Alrighty, y'all. Tip number 3 is to train with faster sophomores or even the upperclassmen, the juniors and seniors, if and when you can.
So this kind of plays into the last topic a little bit, in that, as long as you're not a snot-nosed brat as a sophomore, generally speaking, if you have some talent, the juniors and seniors are going to want to help you grow and develop, because it's going to help them, maybe not this season, but the following season, for when we're back to normal, and you might have a pretty competitive team on your hands that is trying to make regionals, or trying to make sectionals, or trying to make a state championship or a national championship. Obviously some of it is also dependent on your coach. If they are the type of coach that will let you move up a group in the middle of the season, or if they notice that you've been riding a hot streak the last few weeks, are they going to be willing to push the envelope with you towards the end of the year, or are they going to try to keep it conservative and keep you in that maybe development pool as a potential candidate for a varsity spot next year? Also, just kind of from like a team chemistry perspective, it's always kind of interesting to throw a new member of the group into the mix kind of halfway through to see how stuff plays out. I remember maybe my junior year, we had a sophomore transfer in, and we didn't really know who he was, but we knew he had some talent and we knew he had a good work ethic. So we were able to kind of group him or mix him into the group. And because of that, we were able to have arguably the best year out of my 4 years running cross country. So if you have the opportunity to work with older kids or some of the faster sophomores in your class, definitely seize that opportunity and take advantage of it, because it's going to show your coaches and your teammates that you are serious about it, and that, you know, down the road you could really be a crucial member of the varsity squad in the years to come. I know some kids in high school, when they have like a new teammate who shows some talent early on and they're unfamiliar with them, it could be kind of taken as as a threat to their spot, and they kind of run in fear, or they compete in fear, or maybe they kind of shun that teammate away. But at least in my experience, I've always been a competitor, so whenever there was a new teammate in the mix who showed some talent, I saw that as an opportunity, almost like a kid in the candy store. You know, it's a new toy to play with, it's a new friend to have. So I think that's the attitude that you need to have as a teammate.
And the new challenger approaches. What's up, little homie? You're trying to take the peacock spot, ain't you? Ain't you?
Tip number 4, y'all, is to don't get discouraged early on in the school year.
Now, obviously, this tip can apply to kids at all grade levels, but especially with sophomores, and especially with sophomore girls, trust me, I have seen too many times where, they'll PR the first meet and have a massive improvement, and they're on top of the world, they're on cloud 9, and then the next meet they aren't able to PR, and they think it's the end of the world, and they think they've peaked as a runner, and they just go into this like mini depression. And I think it's important to just keep things in perspective and keep things realistic, and just realize that it's not the end of the world and there will be more races. There's also an academic and a social side to it too, obviously. Sometimes like a kid will have a bad test, or maybe they'll break up with their significant other or something, and then they just kind of bring that negativity to practice or to a meet. And obviously that can take away from somebody else's positive momentum. So it's important to kind of just keep things in perspective and be aware of the circumstances that you're in. Now, of course, flunking a test or getting dumped, obviously isn't a sign of a good day. But like I said, in the grand scheme of things, it could be a lot worse. And I've always been of the opinion that when you're having a bad day or a bad couple of weeks, maybe, just taking it out on a practice or on a race, or just trying to turn that bad situation into, at the very least, maybe a net neutral, or maybe even a productive day.
And finally, tip number 5 is to start to find balance between all of your various obligations.
So kind of what I was mentioning in the last tip about how there's an academic side to it, really the sophomore year for a lot of high school kids is all about finding balance. Obviously on the academic side, if you are going into APs and honors classes, you're having to raise your academic expectations, right, or your academic standard of excellence a little bit. So coupling that with an increased workload in your athletics, and then obviously your commitments to your family and your friends, it's really about finding a balance that's suitable for your lifestyle in the moment. And then everybody's heard the standard statement that sophomore year is the first year that really counts, right? A lot of colleges start to look at things your sophomore year, and that's where the going gets tough. That's where they start to weed out competition in terms of who are the best applicants that are qualified to attend our college. think to find that balance, it's really important to have older teammates to lean on and get advice from them. And it's also important to have a good relationship with your coaches and your teachers so that they can be understanding, or not quite empathetic to the situation, but at the very least they are understanding and they are aware of your situation, right? Because I talk a lot in generals, but when it comes to each specific situation, I think as coaches and teachers, we tend to treat kids the same, but we approach each individual case in its own unique way. Now, I typically like to start my days off with a bit of a walk, just to get the brain and the body up and at 'em. So I got about 15 or 20 minutes left or so on this walk, and then after, I'm going to make some breakfast. And on the menu today in the Heil household is probably some leftover rice, and I'll probably make some fried rice out of it with some mackerel I got. Now, what goes better with breakfast than a podcast?
And like, what did they win? We're just going to appeal it. We're going to continue to appeal it. We have a new contract coming up next year. So it's kind of like.
So now I'm going to be taking some photos of a pair of shoes that I'm going to try to sell on eBay. Now, hopefully, these shoes will help me pay off my loans for when student loans come back next month. So now I've got middle school Zoom for Windward's cross country team. I'm obviously not going to be filming this session because, they're minors and stuff and there's legality. So I'll catch you guys in about an hour and a half. Alright, sounds like the mail's here, so let's go pick that up. So it's been a fairly long day for me, and I'm going to recap most of the stuff that I did today in tomorrow's video. So until then, I bid you all a good night and a happy Wednesday. And if you enjoyed the content, like and subscribe. And yeah, that's about it. Have a good one, y'all.